as I grew older, I kept playing music and constantly, and I would start to set up gigs very young in little bands that I had. And then by the time I was 13, I had a beard. So I was the kid with the beard that would buy all the older kids beer or whatever, and then start playing at parties. So I left school very young and became a street musician in San Francisco. And I played on the streets 15, 18 hours a day, and ended up going on a weekend retreat with the Jim Jones temple, you know. Then I came back from there and I began to play professionally, and that's what I did my whole life. So all my life I've been a musician. Concurrently with that, obviously, growing up in the 70s, we're talking about the late 70s, it was the massive influx of drugs, and I started to develop a drug problem myself. Got arrested for marijuana and ended up getting thrown in jail. And when I got thrown in jail, I had to make a decision. Either I was going to be a drug dealer, or which I was pretty good at because I had a good entrepreneurial, bent. But I also decided that really what I wanted to do was music. And sometimes getting in trouble is the kind of snapback that we need to straighten ourselves out. So in retrospect, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and there was a podcast that I listened to that went very deep into the Jim Jones cult, and they explained how they worked. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what happened. They had plants in the audience. And I remember people standing up and saying, I got fired from my job. I was all messed up on drugs, and I found love here. And I was like, something's not right. And then they would say things that contradicted themselves constantly. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just said this. Right. And so that's why I wasn't swallowing the Kool-Aid, right, to use a very, very bad pun. So for me, as a lifelong teacher, and I've written books and everything else, but for me, the most important thing was to be able to understand how the person in front of me thinks. So these experiences helped me understand how to judge people. When I was a street musician, I would meet people who were geniuses at manipulation, and I would see them manipulate people on the streets, and I go, wow, this is evil genius. It really is. It was kind of how the Jim Jones cult worked and everything. It's wholesale manipulation, a psychological manipulation, which is extremely powerful. And I think through that, the ability to ascertain how someone understands, the ability to understand how they think of things. Whenever I teach, I'll ask how they think about things. I use a series of questions that helps me understand how best to impart information. All of this I learned through these experiences, these early experiences.